everyone, this is voiceover me. I know that some Tucker just jumped on me. Anyway, this is voiceover me, and I just finished Peachtober, so I thought I'd do a little wrap-up video with some lovely painting, relaxing stuff. So my voice is that relaxing, so if you're looking for 100% relaxing, I'd suggest putting on a chill playlist. But if you're looking for a little 50% relaxing visuals, but chaotic and awful sound, leave the volume on. Is this really where it has to be?
Yes, it does.
What if it hits my teeth out? Okay, can I just explain? There's a storm outside. It's like thundering and like lightninging and like raining on our like metal roof. And so Rocket and I are under a blanket and I'm recording this audio. Anyway, okay, let's get into it. I just want to say thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. If you don't already know, Skillshare is an online learning platform that allows you to cultivate new skills and fine-tune the ones you already have. I got a lot of questions when I was doing ink last year of like how I knew how to use ink and how to try new mediums. And I think the best way is always to do it practically, to try it out. You can read as much as you want, but there's nothing like seeing someone do something and trying it out yourself. That is exactly how I learned to use watercolor. I saw an artist that I admired using watercolor and I thought, you know what? I'm going to get some crappy cheap watercolors, some crappy cheap watercolor paper. And I just went ham on it. I just wanted to get my ideas onto paper, and that was the best way for me to learn. And now I'm able to like control watercolor, which I think is kind of a wild medium. I'm able to understand how it moves on paper and how it moves in different varying levels of water. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't just trial and error it and observe what other people were doing and trying to emulate that myself. So if you've never used Skillshare, I definitely recommend it. I have 1,000 free trials to give away of Skillshare Premium. There's a link in my description and in the pinned comment. I definitely recommend it, especially if you want to try out a new medium. I would recommend going on there, searching the medium, and just doing as many workshops as you can because like why not? It's free, you know? And then after that, if you want to keep it as a resource, I definitely recommend that too, because you never know when you're going to want to try something new, and you never know when you'll need help from people that know what they're doing. Thank you so much, Skillshare, and enjoy the video. Okay, did you plan out how you'd present, in brackets, photograph your work for the month? If so, how in depth was this planning? And what are your tips for photographing artwork? I didn't really plan it. I've been doing work in progress and final artwork flat lays for a long time. The only thing was deciding which textures I wanted to use because I knew I wanted to alternate. So I decided in the end to use my table texture and then this yellow blanket texture. And what I liked about that is that it's kind of like an explosion of a similar color. It's very warm on my feed and I think that's really pretty. And then I just basically used what I used in the artwork in the flat lay. So it was really like low pressure, low effort. But the tips that I have on photographing your work is make sure that your lens is clean. Luckily my phone actually tells me when my camera lens could be dirty, so then I just give it a little wipe, but make sure that's clean because that's going to really affect how good your work looks. I'd also be shooting it in natural light. Try not to do artificial lighting unless you're like an expert with like lighting scenes and stuff. There were a few times where I did use my YouTube light, the LED panels that I use for when I shoot videos. It's never really the same as natural light, so I would suggest natural lighting, including stuff that you use to make it, because the amazing thing about flat lays is it adds context to your work. It adds an aura to your work. It tells people how big the painting is. It tells them what you use to make it, what kind of brushes you're using, etc. And I think that's a really nice story to share, and it also answers questions before people need to ask them as well. Just makes it more visually interesting, you know? When you first wrote the list, did you quickly imagine if the prompt would work before adding it, or did you try and imagine the art after the list? So I tried to imagine the art after the list, but I have a little bit of an edge in that I just use words that I thought fit within the universe that my work lives within. I imagine my paintings to be like a window into the world in my head. And so like there's obviously some clear subjects that I love to paint, like volcanoes and fire and stuff like that. So I tried to pick prompts that kind of embody that adventurous, outdoorsy spirit that I love to paint but don't really have in life. So a lot of the prompts were like things that exist in the world of my work anyway, and I also try and keep in mind things that are literal, so that when people are short on time or if I'm short on time, you can literally just draw the object if you need to. Bonus points for prompts that have like double meanings. For example, wood could be like timber. It could also be like a forest. That's how I tried to think of the prompts. I didn't imagine what I would paint for the prompt before adding it. I just kind of wrote it out. Then I read it to Rocket and my little sister Asia, and then we like culled some ones I didn't think would work and just rewrote it in. Do you think of a concept for the whole month of Peachtober before you start? All your pieces are cohesive to one another. That is something I've struggled with this year. I don't think of all of them. The last few that you'll see in this video were kind of done like last minute, because I kind of got a little bit behind at the end of the month just because of other work and like video editing and stuff. I like to do it in sets. So sometimes I'll go to the cafe and bring my little moleskin that I'm doing my initial thumbnails in, and I'll sketch a few ideas, and then so it's easy to get started when I want to sit down and actually paint something. Your style seems to have evolved and changed a bit recently, particularly during this challenge. Is that because of working on bandits, or were you experimenting during the challenge? Love from the Peach Gang, so cute. The style hasn't really changed during the challenge. It purely is the kind of work that I was doing pre-Bandit. So I did a lot of studies, a lot of character exploration. And during Bandits, I really figured out that I loved watercolor and pencil together. Being able to finally use like these techniques that I had developed and the style that I had developed outside of the Bandits world was really, really fun. Do you feel that it gets a bit easier to do October every year? Yes. I feel like this year has been the easiest. Every year it gets a bit exhausting after a few, but this year I was probably only exhausted after like 22, which is pretty good, I think. It's like 3 weeks into the challenge. Was there any piece that went in a different direction than you were planning, but in a good way? Example, an unintended effect with watercolor or drawing something that ended up looking like something else. I think the piece that surprised me the most was thunder. It was this way of drawing rain that was just lines, because I was just like, oh, this is gonna look hideous. But I just kind of did it. And then afterwards, when I was photographing, I was like, this is sick. Like, it's so graphic, and it really contrasts with like the loose and curvy style of like the cloud and also the figure and the style of people that I draw. So I think that's something that I did learn while working, is that I really like drawing rain this way, especially letting the watercolor do the work in showing that it's like wet. Does that make sense? Do you use a lot of references, or do most of these illustrations come from your imagination? Sorry, dog is making noise. I find references helpful, but they can stray away from my style. I wonder how you go about sketching your initial thoughts. Love your work on YouTube videos. Thank you. I don't really use references. I've kind of developed a way of portraying things, and I think I've done enough studies of the things that I was drawing to be able to do it without a reference. The one that I did use references for, actually, one of the few, was stripes. So I referenced the face of the tiger because I didn't know how to draw a tiger from the side, like what it really looked like. I couldn't remember. And also the angelfish that's in the bag. I could remember roughly what an angelfish looked like, but it just didn't look completely right. So I just did some studies with that, and then yeah, it was easy because I was using my tablet to kind of do the post thumbnail sketch, so kind of refining the sketch so that I could then transfer it to watercolor paper easily in a less messy way. I'd be so curious to see your brainstorming process for the prompts. How do you come up with ideas? How do they get from sketch to final piece? So for this time I used the technique that I was using with Bandits, which meant that I could be really loose in the sketching stage, especially the thumbnail stage, refine it in a digital sketch, and then light box it onto watercolor paper so that the actual transfer of graphite or pencil for the construction lines was really clean. Because once you put watercolor down, it's hard to erase anything, and it gets really messy when you have like lots of sketchy line work. And I also naturally press really, really hard with pencils. It wasn't going to work sketching straight onto paper, but yeah, I've really loved this method of working. Okay, that's it. I hope you guys like this video, and I'll see you again very soon for a store packing video. I hope you like Peachtober. Thank you so much everyone that got involved. There was like 65,000 entries on the hashtag, which is crazy. Every year it doubles. It's so insane. This is the 3rd year. It is a big challenge. It's very stressful by the end of it to juggle with other work, but really it's so worth it to be a part of the community. I just love being able to make work every day and then log on, look at the hashtag, and see what other people have done within the same prompt, and see how creative people are, and see the different styles, different mediums, everything. It's so amazing. So thanks to everyone who participated. I really appreciate it. You really made my month, and I'll see you again next year for Peachtober 21.